week before, ankle, week 11, knee, and then he missed the games with the hamstring.
On the bright side, it's moving south, and after the toe,
Nowhere
there's
to
nowhere
go.
to go. So
Nowhere to
it's just slowly escaping.
Up the other leg. How concerning is this, bro?
I think it's concerning because I feel like injuries or being banged up to some degree is really the only explanation for how he's been playing. Like, you can have a bad game, even two. You might not be quite at your peak. But this is the first time in his 8-year career he's been under 200 yards passing and 60% completions in 3 straight games. And we saw, I think we have a graphic, his first 5 games, he was lighting the league on fire. And even when they were losing, it wasn't because of the offense. And you see 15 touchdowns, 136 passer rating, which is out of this world for multiple games. And then the last 3, 71 passer rating, 1 touchdown since he's been back, 2 picks. And it's concerning because this offense, while it can win the AFC North, like with this offense playing this way, they can't get to the Super Bowl.
No.
Even if the Chiefs are out, to be honest.
Correct.
And that would be a tragedy for Lamar or Josh not to reach the Super Bowl in a year the Chiefs are either down or out, whatever it might be. Now, I do believe he can get it going, and I feel confident that he'll play better. But if it is injuries, you just might not be able to at that point. So he alluded to it after the game. Somebody asked him about his health, and he said, I can't call it, but since I'm out there, I should be playing better. So he kind of, he didn't kill, no, I'm fine. And so I do think it's affecting his running, his escapability, and he hasn't been the same, no question.
All right, I don't want this to be misconstrued, so I'm going to try to be very deliberate with what I say here. Because I think Lamar, remember, I did a couple years ago, maybe a year ago, the all-time Mahomes mountain. And I had Lamar somewhere in the 15 greatest quarterbacks ever. And there obviously have been quarterbacks that are dynamic with their legs that are just not good passers.
Right.
And that is not who Lamar is. With that said, I have thought for the last few years that the biggest Lamar fans in the analytics community and in a lot of writers, to be totally honest, that talk about him as a passer are watching a different player than me because they talk about how elite he is within the pocket, and that's true, and how precise he is, and that's somewhat true. And they talk about it as if it is divorced from his running. And I have never felt that way. I have felt that what has made Lamar so special is that because he is such a dynamic runner, you almost have to defend that first, which then has cleared the picture in passing, and he has improved in the passing from okay when he first came into the league to pretty good, and that made him have 40 touchdowns, 4 picks, all of these things. The last few years numbers have been unbelievable. He doesn't run anymore. And teams, I think, are realizing it. And for the first time, I believe, he is being defended like a mostly traditional quarterback. And I think he's struggling with it. So I think that.
So you think the injuries are affecting his running?
I think I think he was already paring back on the run.
Right.
And now the paring back plus the injuries make it to where he's not really a threat to run. And if Lamar, this sounds ridiculous, but if they passed a rule like flag football or whatever, like you can't run as a quarterback, I don't believe Lamar would have these gaudy passing numbers.
All right, yes, that's a fair point on the surface, but it still doesn't represent the complete and accurate picture because it continues to underestimate Lamar Jackson's capabilities as a passer. I fully agree that what makes him a singular talent is the combination of all his skills, and his extraordinary rushing ability undoubtedly creates more favorable conditions and enhances his success in the passing game. However, the point of my vehement disagreement with Nick is the assertion that Jackson is merely a good passer, that if you theoretically removed his mobility from the equation, he would just be a competent traditional quarterback. The implication is that if he's forced to operate solely as a pocket passer, he would inherently struggle. This is a fundamental mischaracterization. Lamar Jackson is a great passer. When you fuse that passing prowess with his historic rushing talent, the result is a synergistic effect that elevates him to an elite MVP caliber level. Now, I don't believe Lamar is as pure a passer as, for instance, a Matthew Stafford. But Nick is taking a reasonable observation and extrapolating it to a wildly inaccurate extreme, suggesting that Jackson is now completely floundering as a drop-back quarterback. I am 1,000% in disagreement with that conclusion. Is traditional pocket passing his primary forte? Is it the attribute that makes him uniquely special? Is it the optimal way to utilize his talents? The answer to all of those is absolutely not. But does that mean he transforms into an incompetent passer, the type who throws multiple interceptions without any touchdowns when forced into that role? Absolutely not. The reality is that Lamar Jackson is clearly playing through injuries. He also appears generally uncomfortable within the offense at the moment. So, if he is struggling with his passing, it's not a deficiency of skill. It's a struggle to find comfort and rhythm in how he needs to play and manage the offense right now. He seems indecisive, but that, to me, is a separate issue entirely from his inherent ability as a thrower. It's more about him trying to acclimate to a different style of play while being uncertain of his current physical limitations. I often discuss this phenomenon with athletes who are injured or aging. You enter a phase of having to rediscover your capabilities. You have to determine what you can still execute versus what is now beyond your current physical capacity. It's a process of trial and error, and I believe this is where Lamar's apparent indecisiveness is originating. He is legitimately banged up, and it's visible on the field. To downplay the impact of these injuries, which is essentially what this narrative does, is truly absurd. The particular challenge for an athlete like Lamar, whose game is built on such elite, finely tuned physicality, is that one injury can create a cascade of compensatory issues. A problem with a hamstring, in either leg, compromises your entire kinetic chain. You instinctively begin to favor the injured leg, which in turn places abnormal stress on the other leg, your knees, your ankles. It's a domino effect. A single injury can often be the precursor to another, especially for a player whose style is as dynamic and physically demanding as Jackson's. It reminds me of a concept from Parks and Recreation, ironically, with the character who is hyper-health conscious. He describes his body as a microchip, where even a single speck of dust can disrupt the entire system. He gets sick, and it completely incapacitates him, but then he recovers just as rapidly. This is analogous to many top-tier athletes. Their bodies are so precisely calibrated for peak performance that any minor disruption, any tweak, can have disproportionate consequences. It seems counterintuitive. You'd think a supreme athlete would be more resilient, that if his hamstring is sore, the rest of his body could compensate. But that's simply not how human biomechanics works. As someone who has dealt with numerous injuries, I can attest to this from direct personal experience. So to summarize, he is genuinely injured. He is physically uncomfortable and uncertain about how to adapt his game. But to use this specific moment to draw a direct arrow to the conclusion that he was never a good passer to begin with is an absolutely absurd narrative to propagate. It really truly is. The entire line of reasoning is just preposterous to me. But these are just my opinions. I am genuinely very interested to hear yours. What are your thoughts on Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens? Are you concerned about his recent level of play? Do you attribute it primarily to his injury situation? Or do you believe the criticism about his passing ability has merit? Let me know your perspective in the comment section below. I read every single comment that comes through. So, whether you find yourself in full agreement with me or you think I'm completely off base, let's get some discussions going. Let's have some spirited debates. But at the end of the day, let's just have some fun with it. Please consider subscribing to the channel. We are building a truly amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to have you as a part of it. My goal is to create something we all feel a genuine connection to, something we are truly excited to be involved with. I believe we are well on our way to achieving that. Also, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it genuinely helps with visibility in the platform's algorithm. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.